And once again, the day is saved. The debt ceiling that was hanging over the US government has been raised. The question is it a good thing for us? A debt is when you take money that you don't have in order to pay for some things. And US government, as any government, needs money to operate. So they're taking money as a debt and spending it to fund various programs. To acquire this funding, the US government is issuing bonds. These bonds are then being purchased by the bondholders, either individuals, corporations, or other nations. And this whole US government debt is referred to as US national debt. The question is, why is this debt limited? Let's think about why the US government actually needs to be in debt. Why can't the government, like me and you, spend the money that it earns and don't go over it? Obviously, there are periods in life when you need to go and have some debt on you if you want to purchase a car, if you want to purchase a house. But what do we do, folks, when we have debt? We try to cover it all, pay it back as soon as possible, just not to overpay on the percentages, right? Not to pay any interest, so to say. But the governments don't operate in that way. They take on and on more debt as they go. How is that even possible? What would you do if your whole life would be considered as always increasing in debt? That doesn't sound logical, doesn't it? When is the time when you need to pay it all back? Will it ever be there for the government? Or is it just infinite spending? For me, it seems like an outrageous type of adventure, just to go and pick up more and more debt, feeling that, hey, somebody down the line is going to pay it back. However, how the government feels about it is that this debt, or so-called deficit, is used to fund variety of different programs and stimulate the economy, all for the better good of us regular citizens. Who is benefiting the most from this debt? Is it just multinational corporations and rich individuals that are pocketing the money? And us, people, feeling that with the increased monetary supply on the market, with money printer going brrr and printing tremendous amounts of money, all the money that we have is getting devalued. Remember when the COVID time struck and the government just went on and printed so much money and inflated the supply? They then said, well, now there's this big inflation, so we need to kind of decrease the monetary supply and increase the refinancing rates. But what happened afterwards? With the increase of these refinancing rates, us, the regular people that have debt, that have mortgages, had to start paying more and more on these payments. In fact, this was made so that the people, regular people, just me and you, would have less money on the hands, would go and purchase less stuff, and would end up with more stuff on the shelves, with more property on the market, with more cars sitting in the dealerships and nobody willing to buy. Since there is less demand, the supply would be higher. But despite all this so-called economical quantitative tightening, the government still prints a lot of money. And the recent debt ceiling deal and the increase of the debt ceiling has shown that the government is going to print $4 trillion of US dollars. So how does that make you feel about? How are your money going to hold up if the whole monetary supply is going to be inflated again? So what is exactly this debt ceiling that is set by the government? Why does it need it if it's still going to go and raise it afterwards? It's a hard question. But what we see when we arrive to that debt ceiling is a big act when both the Democrats and the Republicans trying to strike a deal on how much more the debt ceiling can be raised and what social programs and other things can be cut to avoid increasing even further. And this time, the only good thing that this debt ceiling deal came into play is that the crypto miners aren't going to be taxed. Otherwise, I think the government stance against cryptocurrency isn't looking that great. In theory, this monetary stimulation should be a good thing to the economy. But as we see, as the time goes and money gets printed over and over again, the prices go up the amount of things that your money can purchase goes lower and lower and lower day by day. With high inflation we had post-COVID, the amount of things you could purchase strictly decreased. Me, myself, well, I'm very pissed. What is the point of saving any money and living like an actual adult that is thinking about its financial future? What is the point of living and saving funds if the funds you save eventually get inflated and you can purchase the same amount of things with them? That is a sad, sad thing, and it really pisses me off. When we will get there, that the debt ceiling will have to be increased again, what do you think is going to happen? Will the US government say that, hey, we're not going to raise the debt ceiling this time. Instead, we're just going to, go and default on our debt? That does seem unlikely though. So I think the current plan with the economics is just we're going to see monetary policy printing free money over and over again, with you as just a regular person that doesn't have an ability to outpace the inflation, invest into the assets and diversify your portfolio that much. Where are you going to be in 5-10 years? How much will you be able to purchase with $1? If we look at the times before 2000, the situation wasn't so crazy there. The governments were printing money, but not that much. And then in 2008, when the housing crisis came, the Lehman Brothers collapsed, then the governments thought, hey, quantitative easing, infinite money printing, stimulating the economy. That does sound like a great idea. And they're stuck into this. The more debt they have, the more money they need to pay to service this debt. In order to service this debt, they need extra money. Where does this money come from? Well, new debt ceiling, new bonds issued, and the cycle starts again. But each time this cycle starts, we're going to see a rapid increase in monetary supply. So are you stuck with your money, or are you putting it to a good use? And by good use, I mean, do you have crypto? Do you have Bitcoin? Why Bitcoin? The thing with Bitcoin is that Bitcoin is hard money. There is only 21 million Bitcoins that will be ever available in the circulation. No more, no less. So that means it can't be printed away. It can't be inflated away. If you have one Bitcoin, in 5 years, you will have one Bitcoin. Monetary supply is always getting inflated. And if we're looking at the trends that the new generations raised in the digital economy era that are so advanced with their mobile devices, so advanced with mobile computer games, living off digital life, happy to purchase digital assets, skins, and anything from mobile application. Do you think they will struggle? And as the younger generations come in, there will be more holders of Bitcoin in existence than ever before. Each year, a new generation, mobile-friendly tech users are joining the ranks of cryptocurrency. And crypto, at the same time, is getting easier and easier to use. Remember, in 2008, when Bitcoin was just released, there was just only Bitcoin Core Wallet. There was no exchanges, no services. You couldn't spend it anywhere. No one knew about it. Now we have infrastructure supporting such payments. Level 2 scaling solution, Lightning networks. Everything is there to support the cryptocurrency, except for one thing, the government. The government is feeling the pressure from this alternative digital economy on their shoulders and are trying to fight it. Are we going to let it through, or are we going to fight it and show that we care about not just our future, but future of our children, future of next generations, an ability to live a happy life without worrying about money becoming just a paper press? And this is the reason that us, young folks, are looking actively into crypto. An ability to hedge ourselves against the inflation, against an infinite money printer situation. If we look at the game theory about Bitcoin, and we see that the network is growing year by year in active ratios, if we see that the amount of small-time investors is growing, and if we're seeing that the opportunity costs behind us are vast and major, do we need to have an alternative plan for our financial stability? I think so, yes. And this is why we, you, are going and learning and trying to understand the technology behind it. The technology behind alternative hard money that Bitcoin is, and the freedom it offers to the user. And remember, it's vital to make your own research.